अगस्त 1979। इस अवसर पर लाल किले से राष्ट्र के नाम अपने संदेश में प्रधानमंत्री श्री चरण सिंह ने कहा,
केंद्रीय जो तब्दीली आई है वो तांत्रिक तरीके से और शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से आई है। अब हमने देश के सामने कई समस्याएं जो मुंह में खड़ी, संसाधन के गरीबी, दूसरी समस्या बेरोजगारी, जिस वक्त जनता पार्टी ने बागडोर संभाली थी देश की, उस वक्त से लेकर अब तक 25 लाख नौजवानों ने नाम काम दिलाओ दफ्तर में दर्ज किया। 25 लाख लगभग अर्थात बेरोजगारी बढ़ती जाती है। पिछली 5 वर्षीय योजना में सीमेंट बिजली उत्पादन आदि के लिए रखा है। तो ये जो चीजें हैं क्रिटिकल कहिए जो कि सारी अर्थव्यवस्था पर इनका असर करता, अर्थात कोयला, बिजली, रेलवे का चलना और ये हड़ताला होना और सामान से लगे खड़े रहना, एक महीने तक अगर 45 हो सकता, उस सब का नतीजा ये हुआ है कि भाव बढ़ा। जब तक इन चीजों की पैदावार नहीं बढ़ती है, भाव बढ़ता रहेगा, एक मुल्क कभी तरक्की नहीं। अब मैं उन वर्गों का जिक्र कर रहा था जिनकी तरफ गवर्नमेंट को ज्यादा ध्यान देने की जरूरत है। हरिजन लोग, आदिवासी लोग, भूमिहीन लोग, बेरोजगार लोग या जिनके पास कम रोजगार और अपने देश के 50% से अधिक किसान जिनके पास केवल 1 हेक्टेयर जमीन है, 4 बीघे जमीन से कम है, इन सब की तरफ गवर्नमेंट का विशेष ध्यान होगा। उनके भंडार पड़े आप कहते होंगे, तो फिर देश के अंदर क्यों भूख? उसका कारण यह है कि उनके पास क्रय शक्ति नहीं, उनके पास प्रकृति पावर नहीं। उसके लिए खेती की पैदावार बढ़ाने की तरफ विशेष ध्यान देने की आवश्यकता। भ्रष्टाचार की कोई सीमा नहीं, और जिस देश में भ्रष्टाचार तभी चाहे कोई नाराज से इख्तिलाफ हो जाए, कितने अच्छे प्रोग्राम क्यों ना हो, देश को भी तरक्की नहीं। अगर देश को उठना है, पुरुषार्थ करना हो, हम सबको पुरुषार्थ करना होगा। मैं अपने आप को उसमें शामिल करता हूँ, अपने जो सहयोगी मिनिस्टर हैं बैठे सबको शामिल करता हूँ कि हमको अनवरत परिश्रम करना पड़ेगा, तब जाकर ये देश उठेगा। किसी भी देश, बड़े से बड़े देश की तरफ हमारा कोई विशेष झुकाव नहीं हो। हमारा विश्वास ये है कि महात्मा जी की शिक्षा पर चल कर इस देश में, इस अंतरराष्ट्रीय जगत में, इंटरनेशनल वर्ल्ड में, इस दुनिया में शांति कायम हो सकती है, लोगों को सुख मिल सकता है। जहां तक दक्षिण एशिया के मुल्कों का सवाल है, हमारे संबंध उनसे छूट रहे हैं। वो मुल्क किसके लिए बनाया जा रहा? चीन से तो उनकी दोस्ती है और कोई झगड़ा नहीं है। अफगानिस्तान बहुत छोटा सा मुल्क है, उनसे भी कोई झगड़ा नहीं। तो अगर मैं मेरे साथी इस नतीजे पर पहुंचे, हमारे देशवासी इस नतीजे पर पहुंचे कि ये काम जो एक विधेयक हिंदुस्तान के लिए बनाया जा रहा है, तो मैं समझता हूँ फार फ्रॉम टू, सच्चाई से बहुत दूर हमारा नतीजा नहीं हो। हमने तय किया हुआ था, आज तक हमारा ये फैसला है कि हम बम नहीं बनाना चाहते। बम बनाने के दौर में हम नहीं करना चाहते, लेकिन अगर पाकिस्तान अपने इस इरादे पर कायम रहा और बम इकट्ठे करने की कोशिश करता रहा, तो मुझको, मेरे साथियों, इस सारे प्रश्न पर शायद पुनः विचार करना होगा। और मेरे साथ मिलकर 3 बार जय हिंद बोलने की कृपा करें। जय हिंद, जय हिंद, जय हिंद।
इस समाचार चित्र की रिकॉर्डिंग करते समय मिली ताजा खबर के अनुसार श्री चरण सिंह ने अपने पद से त्याग पत्र दे दिया है।
नमस्कार, Hello and welcome to this very special commemoration, whereby we are all remembering Chaudhry Sahab on his 39th Punya Tithi, one of the very short-lived prime ministerial tenure, और जो हम अभी सुन रहे थे 5 मिनट से भी कम के अपने वक्तव्य में लाल किले की प्राचीर से चौधरी साहब ने भारत की अर्थनीति, समाज नीति और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय नीति सभी को एक प्रभावपूर्ण रूप से पिरो दिया, उसको प्रस्तुत कर दिया देशवासियों के समक्ष. We remember him fondly as the peasant prime minister of India under the Prime Ministers of India series at Rethink India. और ये जो सारा प्रयास है वह यह है कि पोस्ट फ्रीडम, पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस एरा में भारत का इतिहास, अगर भारत का स्पेशली द पॉलिटिकल इतिहास, द पॉलिटिकल हिस्ट्री, what it can really, we can learn it from the life and times of our the highest political office of the country, which happens to be the prime minister's office. And India being the most populous democratic republic on the face of planet Earth, it somewhere makes this political office of the Prime Minister of India the most powerful one. uh, Power actually vests in the people behind that elaborate democratic process by which we keep on electing our prime ministers. We don't elect our prime ministers directly, we elect our members of parliament, who in turn, whosoever political party or who are majority of the members of parliament choose to be their leader, he or she becomes the prime minister of the Republic of India. So that is the whole aspect, and today we will be covering the life and legacy of Chaudhry Sahab, uh, which is quite interesting, which is quite illumining. And जो सारा प्रयास है इस पूरी सीरीज का रीथिंग इंडिया से, it is not from a political perspective, it is largely from a academic perspective. We want to learn as to what made these personalities occupy the highest office in the land, whatever challenges, whatever political compulsions in terms of the electoral majority in the parliament, that is the lone qualification. Electoral majority in the parliament with whatever coalitions or direct choices, and what they could do with those constraints and with those charms over there. And that is where we are today, commemorating the life and times of Chaudhry Charan Singh ji. He is known to abolish zamindari to a great extent, brought in joint farming. He x-rayed India's poverty and its solutions, India's economic policy, India's economic nightmare, and land reforms in UP and the Kukas. Chaudhry Saab is accorded with the title of Independent India's one and only rural intellectual, who combined the capacity for political action and intellectual activity and facility in conveying those ideas. So that rightly makes him the political, the peasant prime minister of India. And today, in today's time, when there is a lot of hue and cry about the FDI, the direct investment, Chaudhry Saab was perhaps a votary of another FDI, which was farmer dominated India. And as we will see in the subsequent slides in this whole presentation today, in this whole commemoration, and at Rethink India, we try to commemorate both the Punyatithi and the Janma Jayanti, the Kisan Divas, which is commemorated on 23rd of December, which happens to be Chaudhry Sahab's birthday. And so getting acquainted with the coherent and elaborate set of ideas encompassing a vision of the nature of rural India and of the road that rural India might best take, a potent mixture of analysis and prescription. This is what Chaudhry Saab brings to the table, and his lifelong commitment to living a moral and Spartan life, that is truly enigmatic. Primacy of agriculture in India's development, that is what Chaudhry Saab stood for. Rural job creation as a solution for India's poverty was his lifelong striving. And land reforms and agricultural productivity in those early years of the Republic, and social justice based on a community of shared economic interests. So this is in nutshell the life and legacy of Chaudhry Sahab. In his commemorarium, Rethink India would be giving away a host of Being Charan Singh Sanstuti 2025, furthering agrarian intelligence in the age of AI. Today, the domination of artificial intelligence has taken everyone by a stride, by a surprise. But at Rethink India, we say that a balance between the original AI, that is agrarian intelligence, has to go hand in hand with the क्या कहते हैं, artificial intelligence for that matter. And we would be talking more about that as to how this balance can be formed up between the real and the virtual. So this is what, and this felicitation, this award, this Sanstuti would be presented on the very day when Chaudhary Saab took the oath as the fifth Prime Minister of India on 28th of July. That is yet another epoch, and he remained the Prime Minister of India for 170 days between 28th of July 1979 to 14th of January 1980. So this is what we would really love to uh, see and do it. So going forward, Chaudhary Sahab was an Indian politician, peasant leader primarily, author. We would see a plethora of books which he authored, very deep books over there. And we would really like to uh, convey our recognition, our tributes to the Chaudhary Charan Singh archives. We are inspired by the way Chaudhary Saab's entire work has been encapsulated by the Charan Singh archives. His entire work is hosted out there, and for those who really want to study one prime minister of the country, who in his such a small it is not just the prime ministership which matters, it is actually the core of it all. It is how he brought about his striving for the prime ministership for the cause of the peasants of the country, because we were under a lot of influences. So that is the enigmatic story of Chaudhary Saab, how he shaped up India's politics, and a non Congress government kind of an establishment he brought about. So that is the beauty of India's democracy, and the players, the movers and shakers of it all. So he was an independence activist as well, who briefly served as Prime Minister of India from July 1979 to January 1980. And here I would really like to bring about that the month of May is fraught with the Punyatithis of three of our Prime Ministers. 21st of May being the Punyatithi of Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, then 27th of May, the Punyatithi of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of the country, and 29th May we are commemorating the Punyatithi of Chaudhary Sahab. Chaudhary Sahab was principally known for us. We have a labor of love, and so we would really like to refer him as Chaudhary Sahab in all this rendition all through. So he was principally known for his land and agricultural reform initiatives, and was a member of parliament from Bagpat. It is one of the core agrarian constituencies in western Uttar Pradesh. And during his premiership, he was a member of the Janata Party, secular. He served as the chief minister of Uttar Pradesh as a member of the Bharatiya Kranti Dal. He also briefly served as the deputy prime minister of India from January 1979 to July 1979. And after that, he was briefly the prime minister of the country. And he is popularly regarded as the champion of farmers. Kisan Ghat is his samadhi sthal on the banks of Yamuna, and he dedicated himself to advocate for the well-being and rights of the farmers. The farmer-dominated India was flowing the FDI, which matters, in his veins all through his life. And Chaudhary Sahib was born in Meerut district, United Provinces of Agra and Oudh, in 1902, and he graduated from Agra College in 1923 with a Bachelor of Science degree, and then pursued Master of Arts in History in 1925. Just 100 years back, a century back, he completed an MA in History. In 1927, he completed his Bachelor of Laws. So, a person of science going to history, humanities, and then going to law. A very, I would say, very enigmatic choice of subjects for Chaudhry Saab took over. And 1927, he completed his LLB from Meerut College, and Chaudhry Saab entered politics as a part of the Indian independence movement, motivated by Mahatma Gandhi. He followed Gandhi in non-violent struggle for independence from the British government and was imprisoned several times. In 1930, he was sent to jail for 12 years by the British for contravention of the salt laws. We have heard, we studied in greater depth on nation builder Nehru commemoration that how salt satyagraha, that was a time when almost the operational power of the Indian independence movement came into the hands of Jawaharlal Nehru, when in 1929 he gave that call for Purna Swaraj from the banks of river Ravi in Lahore. So for 12 years, Chaudhry Saab had to got interned in the jail, and he was jailed again for 1 year in November 1940 for individual satyagraha movement, and in August 1942 he was jailed again for the British under the DIR and released in November 1943. So we can say so that a very substantive period of his youthfulness. It got he was in jail all through, and he was a Congress member for most of his life, but later founded his Lok Dal party. And Chaudhry Sahib is considered to be the first leader outside the Indian National Congress who formed government in northern India and became the chief minister of Uttar Pradesh. So a quintessential Gandhian. So any political personality has multiple shades, as we have been seen. So Chaudhry Sahib was more towards the rural reconstruction of Bharat, what Gandhiji also envisioned. And Chaudhry Sahib very recently, just last year, he was along with the polyglot Prime Minister of India, Pamula Venkatapati P.V. Narasimha Rao Sahab. He was entrusted with the Bharat Ratna, the highest civilian honor, on the very eve of the general elections 2024. So his early life and education, Chaudhry Sahib was born on 23rd December 1902 to Mir Singh and Netar Kaur in Noorpur village of Meerut district and United Provinces of Agra and Oudh. His father was a farmer belonging to the Tevatia clan of Jats, and Chaudhry Sahib started his primary education in Jani Khurd village in Meerut. He did his matriculation and intermediate from the government high school in 1921, and he went to Agra College to pursue his Bachelor of Science in 1923, Masters of Arts in History, which is British, European, and Indian in 1925, and he then did Bachelor of Laws from Meerut College in 1927. So that was his academic career. And Chaudhry Saw had immense knowledge about European and Indian history as well as the civil laws of British India as it affected the lives of the village people. So, even through the instrument of law, what he studied, he was dedicated to the cause of rural Bharat, the rural intellectual, the rural activist, and then the rural prime minister who had it in his hearts. Chaudhry Sahib entered politics as a part of the Indian independence movement motivated by Mahatma Gandhi, and he was active from 1931 in the Ghaziabad district Arya Samaj as well as the Meerut district Indian National Congress, for which he was jailed twice by the British. And before independence, as a member of the Legislative Assembly of the United Provinces, elected in 1937. Chaudhry Sahib took a deep interest in the laws that were detrimental to the village economy, and he slowly built his ideological and practical stand against the exploitation of tillers of the land by landlords. We all know how the British imperialism, British colonial rule, it brought about 20 famines over a period of 100 years, and how India was structurally impoverished, structurally pauperized, we may say so, both from an agrarian perspective and from even our manufacturing bottom lines. So, between 1952 1952, we have just learnt in the Nation Builder Nehru sessions that it was the first general elections, and 1968 Chaudhry Sahab was considered to be the three principal leaders in Congress state politics. He was a very important triumvirate. He became particularly notable in Uttar Pradesh from 1950s for drafting and ensuring the passage of what were then the most revolutionary land reform laws in any state in India under the tutelage of the then Chief Minister Govind Vallabh Pant, who rose to be India's Home Minister after Sardar Patel, and he oversaw the reorganization of Indian states on linguistic lines. So Chaudhry Saab first as the parliamentary secretary and then as revenue minister responsible for land reforms. He became visible on the national stage from 1959 when he publicly opposed the unquestioned leader and prime minister Jawaharlal Nehru's socialistic and collectivist land policies in the Nagpur Congress session. So though his position in the faction ridden Uttar Pradesh Congress was weakened because of his open opposition of Nehru, this was a point when the middle peasant communities across castes in North India began looking up to him as their spokesperson and later as their unquestioned leader. And Singh stood up for tight government spending, enforced consequences for corrupt officers, and advocated a firm hand in dealing with the demands of government employees for increasing wages and dearness allowances. So it is also worth noting that within the factional Uttar Pradesh Congress, his ability to articulate his clear policies and values made him stand out from his colleagues. An original thinker coming who stood firm in his background despite rising to the higher political echelons. He remained grouted uh, to the penury of the peasants for whom he stood for. And following this period, Chaudhry Sahab defected from the Congress on 1st April 1967. He joined the opposition party and became the first non Congress chief minister of Uttar Pradesh. So, this was the post Nehruvian era after the Indo Pak War of 65, and then also the demise of Lal Bahadur Shastri ji, who again came from Uttar Pradesh, Phulpur. So, this was a period when non Congress governments were a strong force in India from 1967 to 1971. So people have different views of interpreting it across, but somewhere or the other, a political situation is all about ideological balance. Because as we will study later on, that even after a fabulous independence movement, India had a food grain crisis in the era of Lal Bahadur Shastri ji. So all those 18 years of fabulous work, what Nehru ji did, somewhere he ignored the agrarian front. Somewhere, even the 1962 India China skirmish, it is said that around the same time, the great leap forward of Mao, the unquestioned dictator of the People's Republic of China. India had a democratic dictator, that's a different thing, the unchallenged one. But somewhere or the other, our destinies both went the same. And Chaudhry Saab saw it well. And we will see to the rationale what he talked about it. And somewhere his ideology came into the farmers' protest in the wake of the three dark laws, the Rowlett Act kind of laws, the farm laws, we all know about it. And for one long year, the farmers had seized. It was perhaps for the first time that the whole capital was surrounded by the farmers against those laws. So, as a leader of the Bharatiya Lok Dal, a major constituent of the Janata coalition, he was disappointed in his ambition to become prime minister in 1977 by Jai Prakash Narayan's choice of Morarji Desai. So that was a power struggle, but then It's it's part of history. So during the 1977 Lok Sabha elections, the fragmented opposition united a few months before the elections under the Janata Party banner, for which Chaudhry Sahab had been struggling almost single-handedly even before the promulgation of the emergency since 1974. It was because of the efforts of Raj Narayan who that he became prime minister in the year 1979. Though Raj Narayan was chairman of Janata Party Secular and assured Charan Singh ji of elevating him as prime minister, the way he helped him to become chief minister in the year 1967 in Uttar Pradesh. However, Chaudhry Sahab had to resign just after 20 days in office when Indira Gandhi's Congress party withdrew support to the government. And we will be touching upon as to why she withdrew that support. Chaudhry Sahab said he resigned because he was not ready to be blackmailed into withdrawing इंदिरा गांधीज इमरजेंसी रिलेटेड कोर्ट केसेस सो उनको कुर्सी त्यागना मंजूर था पर जो atrocities what Indira Gandhi did as a part of emergency, Chaudhary Sahab was a man of principle, so we can say so that a principled prime minister in his own right. So fresh elections then were to be held 6 months later, and Chaudhary Sahab continued to lead the Lokdal in opposition until his death in 1987. So, just a brief background about him in the pre independence era. Prominent leader of the Indian rebellion of 1857 and Raja Nahar Singh of Vallabhgarh, which is in present day Haryana. So, Nahar Singh was sent to the gallows in Chandni Chowk, Delhi, and in order to escape the oppression from the British government following their defeat, the Maharaja's followers, including Charan Singh's grandfather, moved eastwards to the district Bulandshahr in Uttar Pradesh. And this we have covered already his education, science, arts, and then law. In February 1937, Chaudhry Sahab was elected from the constituency of Chaprauli to the Legislative Assembly of the United Provinces at a very young age of 34 years. And in 1938, he introduced an agricultural produce market bill in the Uttar Pradesh Assembly, United Provinces Assembly, which was published in the issues of the Hindustan Times of Delhi, dated 31st March 1938. The bill was intended to safeguard the interest of the farmers against the rapacity of traders. The bill was adopted by most of the states in India, and Punjab being the first state to do so in 1940. So Chaudhry Sahib is also considered to be the father of the uh, MSP, the entire infrastructure he created out of this agricultural produce market, जो मंडियों की बात हम करते हैं. So it was a result of that, so that in those stipulated places, the farm produce can be sold on MSP, and that remains still a very dominant demand of the Indian agricultural community. Chaudhary Sahib followed Mahatma Gandhi in non-violent struggle for independence from the British government, and he was imprisoned several times. In 1930, he was sent to jail for 12 years by the British for contravention of the salt laws. Just imagine. He was jailed again for 1 year in November 1940 and for individual satyagraha movement, and in August 1942 he was jailed again by the British under DIR and released in November 1943. Uh, Now, what led to the open criticism of Nehru's economic policy? Chaudhry Sahab had a very rational argument. Charan Singh opposed Jawaharlal Nehru on his Soviet style economic reforms. Charan Singh was of the opinion that cooperative farms would not succeed in India. Being a son of a farmer, Chaudhry Sahab opined that the right of ownership was important to the farmer in remaining a cultivator, क्योंकि भारतवर्ष में धरती मैया और गैया मैया, ये दो माताएं अपनी बायोलॉजिकल मदर के अलावा, दिस इज अ ट्रायड ऑफ मदर्स, गंगा मैया इज अनदर वन. बट इस तरीके से जो भारतीय अधिष्ठान चलता है, ही न्यू द पल्स ऑफ भारत, तो उन्होंने कहा ये कोऑपरेटिव फार्मिंग नहीं चलने वाली है हिंदुस्तान में. एंड इवन टुडे वी कैन सी दैट मिल्क कोऑपरेटिव्स हैव बीन अ सक्सेस बिकॉज there is a industrial element to it. Milk is just collected at almost half or even lesser prices by these milk producing plants from the dairy farmers, we can say so. And then they have a huge mop up for their packaging, pasteurizing, and all that stuff. So farmer cooperatives have not been that successful because, and that was perhaps the genesis of the challenge what the farmers bill produced, and the whole uh, farmers, at least in the northern side of the country, they raise up in arms like the 1857 rebellion. Not so 700 farmers lost their life in that prolonged agitation, but thankfully eventually, they saved India's farming from the shock, from the mischievous eyes of the foreign players, because food security is something which keeps Bharatiya Swatantrata intact. If we would have been pauperized of our only food security in the, I would say, in the wake of development, so and so forth, I think we would have been on a different trajectory. And the recent history has shown it phenomenally. India was to export our food grains, but then in the wake of the Ukraine war, we stopped it. We said, no, our stocks are important. We have to feed our own country. So Chaudhary Sahab wanted to preserve and stabilize a system of peasant proprietorship. That was the core of it all. And Chaudhary Sahab's political career suffered, but a born Tevatiya Jat, we can say so, the valiant defender of a principle, Chaudhary Sahab didn't worry. Political career is fine. So he's considered to be the fountainhead of the MSP system. Chaudhary Sahib is known for piloting pro farmer legislation, such as the Consolidation of Holdings Act of 1953 and the Uttar Pradesh Zamindari and Land Reforms Act of 1952. And the latter led to the abolition of the Zamindari system in Uttar Pradesh. He was also strict in dealing with the Patwari strike crisis in 1953, and land reforms resulted in empowering the tillers and providing the landless with the ownership of land. It created a conducive atmosphere for the social and economic upliftment of the farmers. And during the drought in 1966-67, Chaudhary Sahab offered the agriculturist a much higher procurement price than the prevailing market rates. And the infrastructure he laid down, it led to the minimum support price mechanism, which still ensures at least a baseline samman, a baseline subsistence for our agrarian community. His journey as a deputy prime minister of India, Chaudhary Sahab left Congress party in 1967 and formed his own political party, Bharatiya Kranti Dal. With the help and support of Raj Narayan and Ram Manohar Lohia, he became the chief minister of Uttar Pradesh in 1967 and later in 1970. Because a man of principles, to stay put in the seat of power, executive power, remains a challenge. Uh, in 1975, obviously during the emergency proclamation, he was jailed again, but this time by the then Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, daughter of his former rival. Yesterday, when we were commemorating the Janma Jayanti of Veer Savarkar, we saw that as to how his whole ideological struggle against Gandhi, who had a different view of Ramarajya, of Dashera, and what view Savarkar had. So Bharat is a beautiful tapestry of multifaceted political ideologies, and that is what कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी. So on ideological forefronts, a devout Gandhian in Charan Singh became a rival of Jawaharlal Nehru, who was again a pupil of Mahatma Gandhi, his political heir. So in 1977 general elections, the Indian populace voted out Indira Gandhi, and the opposition party, of which Chaudhary Charan Singh was a senior leader, came into power. The motley mix of political parties called the Janta Party. He served as deputy prime minister, home minister, and finance minister in the Janta government headed by Morarji Desai. Let's come back to the theatre of Uttar Pradesh, where he was the first term chief minister in 1967 to 68. He became the first time chief minister on 3rd of April 1967 with the help of a coalition called Sanyukt Vidhayak Dal coalition. And Sanyukt Vidhayak Dal was formed after the failure of negotiations between Chaudhry Sahab and Chandra Bhanu Gupta on the composition of Gupta's ministry. So Chaudhry Sahab wanted some of his allies like Jai Ram Verma and Udit Narayan Sharma to be included in the cabinet and removal of some of the men from the cabinet. So those were the early years of the non-Congress governments coming through. So as a result of failure of negotiations, Chaudhry Sahib with his 16 MLAs, he defected from the Congress. We all witness these kind of electoral calculus once the general elections are done. So this power struggle has been happening for quite a while, and it has its own calculus, it has its own ideological underlying basis, and this is how power is gained, regained, lost on the floor of the house. So this is the democratic calculus we have to learn and appreciate on that. So Sanyukt Vidhayak Dal was a coalition formed with the help of non-Congress parties like Bharatiya Jansangh, Sanyukt Socialist Party, Communist Party of India, Swatantra Party, Praja Socialist Party, Republican Party of India, Communist Party of India, and so on. So within months of it, we can see a motley mix of it all, and it is very noteworthy out here that in the Indian tapestry, we see United States of America happens to be the oldest democracy, but it is just a two-party system, just the binaries. And the People's Republic of China, for that matter, it just has a single party dictatorship system. India, even at a state level, we have such a vast mix of political ideology mix, and to really bring them all together. So our so-called economic growth, our social growth, our foreign aspects, so we are a complexity in our own right. And as a part of this Prime Ministers of India series, we come to know and understand that this is how a slow and steady progress of the country has been helpful in one way or the other, rather than getting swayed by foreign influences. Oh, this country grew at this stage. Somewhere or the other, we have to understand that this is the complex nature of this most populous nation on the
हो गया.
planet, and this is what would it's slow but steady, and this is how we can see. So that short tenures, but still a lot of work has moved in a drift velocity aspect. So within months of this government formation, disputes started to arise in this SVD, Sanyukt Vidhayak Dal coalition, and Sanyukt Socialist Party, one of the constituent of this coalition, demanded to completely abolish the land revenue, or at least abolish on uneconomic lands. But Chaudhry Sahab refused to accept this demand as he was worried about the revenue generation and resources. So, very many idealistic stands were there in the early years of the Republic. And we are talking about 1967, after around 12, 15 years of our constitution coming into force. After the Nehruvian industrial era, Nehru demised in 1964, the temples of modern India, the dams, and all kind of institution building he did. But it all, the agrarian part of it all somewhere got lost in that aspect, because there was a socialist experiment going both in Soviet Rus, which came, but they were dictatorships, so the plunder of farmers could not be reported. The colossal failure of the great leap forward of China, somewhere Nehru was enthused regarding that. So the word historical events and the Indian history, it has all to be seen in parallel, just to make sense as to what political compulsions, what to all political designs and ideologies happened all through. So, uh, so Chaudhry Sahab wanted to have a middle pathway, ki where will the revenue for the state government would come from. So the Praja Socialist Party, another constituent of this coalition, it demanded for the release of government employees held in preventive detention for their strikes. But this demand also Chaudhary Saab refused to accept. So on one side there was an agrarian consideration, on the other side the labor, because the entire communist agenda was around the notion of labor in the factories. It the Marxism had all emanated from that industrial revolution of Great Britain, European industrial revolution. So it to strike a balance in those times. So the disputes between Chaudhary Saab and Sanयुkt Socialist Party became public when this Sanयुkt Socialist Party SSP decided to launch an agitation of Angrezi Hatao, get rid to English, and during this movement, two of its ministers courted arrest. SSP withdrew from coalition on 5th January 1968, and on 17th February, Chaudhary Saab submitted his resignation to the governor Bezawada Gopal Reddy, and on 25th February, President's rule was imposed on Uttar Pradesh. This is what we are seeing the advent of the ideological struggle. His first term as UP's chief minister. His second term in 1970. So after the split in Congress party, Chandrabhanu Gupta resigned as chief minister on 10th February 1970, and on 18th February 1970, Chaudhary Saab became chief minister of Uttar Pradesh for the second time with the help of Indira Gandhi's Congress R. So there was a kind of a defection happening at the national level Congress party also, where Indira Gandhi was making a kind of split in the traditional Congress. So after three Rajya Sabha members of Bharatiya Kranti Dal voted against the decision of Indira Gandhi to eliminate the Privy Purse, which was given to the royal princes, the princely states we all know, whom were brought to the Union of India. Kamlapati Tripathi, Kamlapati Tripathi announced the withdrawal of the support of Congress R for the Chaudhry Charan Singh's government. Chaudhary Saab demanded the resignation of 14 Congress R ministers, but they refused to resign. So on 27th September 1970, again the same governor, Mr. Bezawada Gopal Reddy, accepted the resignation of ministers, but also asked Chaudhary Saab to resign. So on 1st October 1970, President's rule was again imposed on Uttar Pradesh by President V.V. Giri from Kiev. He was on travel. And uh, just 2 weeks later, with the recalling of the Uttar Pradesh Assembly, Tribhuvan Narayan Singh was elected the leader of the House and became Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. So those early political operations, we can have a hang of it all. So ideology with pragmatism, all was in those early days, and still it keeps on continuing. So various factions coming into play, formulating governments, all that and all that. So after his two stints as a chief minister of Uttar Pradesh, Chaudhary Sahab uh, became the cabinet minister in Morarji Desai's government in the post-emergency elections, and he took the office as Minister of Home Affairs on 24th March 1977. As a Home Minister, now the decisions are important, and this is where it gets very interesting. Chaudhary Saab took the decision to dissolve all the state assemblies which were under Congress rule. So this was a very sweeping kind of a daring step. The Article 356, which got notorious post that, he argued that these assemblies no longer represent the will of the electorate of their respective states, because the post-emergency movement was considered to be yet another challenge in India's democracy. So Chaudhary Saab wrote the letter to 9 chief ministers to advise their governors to dissolve their state assemblies. And the chief minister of these states went to the Supreme Court against this dissolution, but the dismissals were validated by Supreme Court. One of the core structures of the Indian Constitution that it has a very strong unitary nature because yes, we have federalism, but
ये
we
खुला
have
हुआ था.
a strong unitary nature, and that remains binding on the states. So on 3rd October, 24th October, Chaudhry Saab took oath, and on 3rd October, Chaudhry Saab got Indira Gandhi arrested, the former prime minister who got Pakistan bifurcated into East Pakistan and West Pakistan, who emerged as a geostrategic power player on the Committee of Nations, who dared to show her eyes to the American pressure. Somewhat we could not, perhaps, as a part of Operation Sindoor, that much, where we allowed Donald Trump to intervene into our foreign policy. So he got Indira Gandhi arrested from her 12 Wellington Crescent. So till that time, a lot of uh, Delhi spaces were all anglicized. A lot of transition time is required to make them purely Indian. So the charges against her were that during the 1977 election, she misused her position to get jeeps for election campaigns, and another charge was related to contract between the ONGC and the French oil company CFP. But the magistrate before Mrs. Gandhi appeared released her, stating that there was no evidence to back up the arrest. By botching up the arrest, Chaudhry Sahab prepared his resignation letter, but Morarji Desai did not accept it. So this was a kind of internecine uh, power struggles which keep on happening in every polity, every democracy for that matter. But the daring and roaring of Chaudhry Sahab to just get the former prime minister arrested was a significant step in a daring. It shows the persona, what he was and what he stood for, the values and ethos and all. So on 1st July 1978, this is next year, 77-78, Chaudhry Sahab resigned from the cabinet of Morarji Desai because of the growing differences between them over the trial of Indira Gandhi. So Chaudhry Sahab wanted to punish the murderer of the Indian democracy under quotes by showing the threat of internal security and so on. So, but in December 1978, Chaudhry Sahab wanted to undo Janata Party and wanted coalition government in place of Janata Party government. So it was an unnatural coalition because a lot of motley mix of ideological parties had joined in. And on 24th January 1979, the next year, Chaudhry Saab returned into cabinet and held two portfolios of Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. So it keeps on happening that you assert your political power, you try to gain concessions. It might look a bit opportunistic, but this is how the evolution of Indian democracy has happened. Our purpose behind these Prime Ministers of India series is that these tactics, these power plays, these pressure spaces of threatening, withdrawing support, it is all like a game of chess for certain end of goals, certain end objectives, and you need players of all denominations to make it happen. So now coming to the prime ministership of Chaudhry Saab, which was just a 23 long days. Remaining time he was the caretaker one, where he could not take any policy decision for that matter. So following the Janata Party victory in the 1977 general elections, its MPs delegated the selection of a prime minister to Jayaprakash Narayan, JP, and Acharya Kripalani. Morarji Desai was chosen as the Prime Minister and subsequently appointed Chaudhry Sahab as Home Minister of India. However, due to disagreements with Desai, Singh Chaudhry Sahab was asked to resign on 1st July 1978. But he was later reinstated as Deputy Prime Minister on 24th January 1979. So by 1979, the Janata Party faced internal divisions, particularly over the dual loyalties of some members to both the party and the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. So now we can see that for the last 10, 11 years, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh backed political formulation in BJP has got clear majority, losing some seats from the majority mark in the last general elections, but they made their way through. So this is how the Indian polity from a utterly Congress dominated polity to a fragmented space for a substantive amount of time. After the Janata Party experiment, Congress again came to power, and it was uh, 90s was again full of such ups and downs, and then 2000s we saw one BJP government. So this is how the entire democracy is evolved, and a review of all our prime ministers would really tell the telling tales of the democratic power plays in the country. So Chaudhary Saab, who had previously ordered the arrests of Indira Gandhi and Sanjay Gandhi as Union Home Minister, capitalized on the growing discord by seeking the support of Indira Gandhi's Congress I party. So this was a somersault, and this is not so very impossible. Politics is considered to be the art of impossible. That he took the support from Indira Gandhi, and somewhere following significant defections from the Janata Party to Singh's faction, Morarji Desai resigned as Prime Minister in July 1979, and subsequently President Neelam Sanjeeva Reddy, he appointed Chaudhary Saab as the Prime Minister after Indira Gandhi and Sanjay Gandhi assured him of external support from Congress I under certain conditions. Now these conditions, what Chaudhary Saab revealed, we would like to take his version on his Punyatithi to be the truthful one. So Chaudhary Saab was sworn in as the Prime Minister on 28th of July 1979, with Yashwant Rao Chauhan of the Congress Socialist Party serving as the Deputy Prime Minister. So Chaudhary Saab's tenure as Prime Minister was very short-lived. On 15th August 1979, he hoisted the national flag at the Red Fort on Independence Day, and we just heard at the start of this session in a crisp 5 minute address what many leaders now take have taken the fetish of 50 minutes and more and more. 5 minutes he summarized the entire set of priorities which lies for the government, just to address a ceremonial address assuring the people of India. So, in his speech, Chaudhary Saab, we listened it in full. He emphasized the importance of integrity, and this is something what he lived in his personal life all through. So he said that to be able to achieve noble objectives, because he was a quintessential Gandhian, a man of principles. So your means should also be equally noble. A country where people are corrupt will never be able to progress, whosoever may be the leader of the party or whatever be the sound program he might follow. However, Chaudhary Saab's government soon faced a major setback. Indira Gandhi's support was conditional upon the withdrawal of all charges against her and Sanjay Gandhi. A kind of that in his ambition to remain the prime minister, he would perhaps the kind of deals we have been hearing from POTUS. It is so very natural in the American culture, but Indian ethos are quite very different. Our presidential pardons are done only on mercy grounds, but they are never done on these aspects. They might be hush-hushed, but this was the kind of process showed to Chaudhary Saab, and Chaudhary Saab refused to comply, prompting Congress Indira I to withdraw its support just before he was scheduled to prove his majority in the Lok Sabha. Consequently, he resigned as Prime Minister on 20th August 1979 after just 23 days in office, becoming the only Indian Prime Minister to have never faced the Parliament. But it was what is striking is that he did not bow down. He did not compromise with the principles. He said that I will not take away the charges, the excesses which were done all of a sudden. So, following Chaudhary Saab's resignation, he advised President Reddy to dissolve the Lok Sabha, and Janata Party leader Jagjeevan Ram contested this move and sought time to gather support. but the dissolution proceeded. And Chaudhry Sahib remained in office as caretaker Prime Minister from 21st August 1979 to 14th January 1980, when fresh elections were held. So that was his short lived prime ministership, the fifth Prime Minister of India, who remained in the seat of that prominent seat for only 23 days, 170 days in total, but the remaining ones more so as a caretaker Prime Minister. Now, post that, post in the year 1979 itself, on 26 September, Chaudhry Sahib formed Lokdal by merging Janata Party Secular, Socialist Party, and Odisha Janata Party. He was elected president of Lokdal, and Raj Narayan was elected as its working president. And in August 1982, a major split occurred in Lokdal also, with one faction of Charan Singh and other consisted of Karpuri Thakur. Incidentally, Karpuri Thakur also got the Bharat Ratna in the same year of 2024. And it was a majestic year that even Lal Krishna Advani ji, the Deputy Prime Minister under Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji's government, also was bestowed upon the highest civilian honor of the country. So Madhu Limaye, these socialist leaders, Biju Patnaik, Devi Lal, George Fernandes, and Kumbharam Arya. So we can see so that how many political personalities have dotted this country, shaped our political thought, shaped our governance. From time to time, it is a caricaturizing which happens into popular media, whereby we try to refer to these political personalities condescendingly. But in an academic exercise, we have to really look at the kind of background from which these people got inspired to enter the public service per se. And they stood in order to advance their thoughts and ideologies, whatever they might be. They were largely, we have to see it from their perspective. And then, like a kind of coalescing, we have to see through that a kind of a parameterized three-dimensional or n-dimensional matrix, like the multi-parameter poverty framework what Niti Aayog is now coming through, the kind of analytical technology we have come. So perhaps studying these personalities would be a real fun, apart from the political grapevine which remains out there in political newspapers and magazines and all that stuff. So on 21st October 1984, this is just 10 days before the brutal assassination of Indira Gandhi ji by her Sikh bodyguards, Chaudhry Sahab founded a new party, which was Dalit Mazdoor Kisan Party. He was a socialist, so he brought about the social, the laborer, and the peasant. So, the downtrodden. So, he tried to bring them all together by merging Lokdal, Democratic Socialist Party of Hemwati Nandan Bahuguna, another eminent figure of the North Indian politics, especially Uttarakhand, Rashtriya Congress of Ratubhai Adani, and some leaders of the Janata Party like Chaudhry Devilal. So, but later it changed its name back to the Lokdal, and this was all. If we see, this was all the closure of the Cold War, the two dominant blocs, the ideological shift which happened after the fall of USSR. Uh, a lot of socialist romanticism which remained. India still tried to make a kind of a balance between a public sector and a private sector of MSMEs, but then post 1991, what we call as reforms, a plethora of Western capital flooded the Indian markets. Still, we are finding a huge challenge. Platforms like Swadeshi Jagran Manch, they have now, even the current Prime Minister is talking about a new Swadeshi, because that is where on the economic frontiers, the Operation Sindoor, he says, would be now fought on the economic frontiers amidst the people. So the ideological undercurrents, because in order to understand the contemporary affairs, we have to really have a kind of a hang of what happened in this short history of 75 years of our modern democratic republic. So coming to Chaudhry Saab's image, because this is a very clean and neat image, apart from the political machinations on the political chessboard, which every player is allowed to. You cannot question a Gary Karpov or a Vishwanathan Anand that why are you not entrapping me? Because the goal always remains that I have to advance my ideology, and that is how the murkier word of power politics work. Murkier under quotes, I would really like to say. And as Mahabharata also says that the Niriho Nash Nute Mahat and Chaudhary Sahib coming from the very land of Mahabharata, there was nothing wrong in aspiring for the highest political office of the country, because then and then only you can represent. And we can see his commitment to the larger downtrodden sections, Dalit, Mazdoor, and Kisan, which is still like the current Samajwadi Party chief Akhilesh Yadav talks about PDA. So this keeps on remaining when the country 80 crore, more than half of the population has to be fed on free rations from the government. I think the concerns for Chaudhary Saab had still remains, despite we having crossed or just on the border of becoming third largest, fourth largest, whatever economy. But at the granular level, is a common Indian prosperous? That remains the central question. So this what makes the public image of Chaudhary Sahab. uh, his image remained all through, and he still continues to enjoy predominant image of being a dedicated advocate for farmers. The farmers dominated India. The other FDI, what Chaudhary Sahab was concerned about, and earning him the nicknames like champions of farmers and Chaudhary Sahab. And his efforts in land reforms, such as the UP Zamindari abolition and Land Reforms Act of 1952, aimed at empowering tillers and providing land ownership to the landless, significantly boosted his reputation among rural communities, particularly in western Uttar Pradesh, and made him a Masiha of farmers. And Chaudhary Sahab, as we have learnt very early, he understood that Dharti Maiya ko bechna, it was a way, it was against the Indian ethos altogether. So Chaudhary Sahab's simple lifestyle and integrity, often highlighted by wearing hand-woven khadi clothes and was a teetotaler, further enhanced his image as an ethical leader committed to rural development. Chaudhary Sahib was also noted for his opposition to casteism, advocating for social equality and criticizing caste based discrimination, which resonated with his broader vision of uplifting rural and marginalized groups. So in 2018, the BBC wrote that Chaudhry Charan Singh was more than merely a political figure. He was a champion of farmers, a leader of a political party, or a past prime minister. He embodied an entire philosophy and a way of thinking. That's what makes him so very relevant, uh, even after so many years of his physical demise. His views are becoming pertinent all the more in the contemporary Bharat and perhaps in future as well. So in Chaudhry Charan Singh, an Indian political life, Paul Brass, an American political scientist, he wrote that Chaudhry Charan Singh was a visionary leader committed to rural development and farmer welfare. So in the Rethink India parlance, we try to recognize him more as a peasant prime minister of India, who remained continuously engaged, continuously enthralled by the cause of supporting the farmers. So, Peter Brass highlights Singh's legislative achievements such as the Consolidation of Holdings Act of 1953, Uttar Pradesh Zamindari and Land Reforms Act of 1952, and the introduction of the minimum support price. The entire debate, which is looming large on the national frontiers, that is to why we cannot have a floor pricing for all the 23 agrarian crops, because a legal guarantee would ensure, and it can also be made as a lever for crop differentiation, because farmers need to have a definitive income. And Chaudhary Saab had this precursor which somewhere improved upon the lives of the farmers, because they were getting fair prices because of this MSP, which empowers farmers and address caste divisions. Chaudhary Saab is depicted as a principled nationalist advocating for agriculture over industrialization. Now, that is a quintessential Gandhian view as well. And today, when the entire one percenter economy, and today in the advent of AI, when even the so-called blue collar jobs, the white collar jobs, whatever, even the knowledge working jobs are in jeopardy, where machines can write better codes than the programmers. Perhaps a kind of a balance between humans and machines, the quintessential debate which started at the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. It perhaps has now germinated, it has now evolved, because that's where the whole crisis of humanity lies in. And that's where he said that agriculture first. And very many economics, agrarian economists says that if India has to, even in the COVID period, if you see all industrial growth shattered, and it was all the agrarian growth which led the country out of that K type or a V type economic recovery. So, though ambitious and entangled in Congress factional politics of that time, notably clashing with Nehru, but he had the daring to clash. Like one young, I would say, adversary of Jawaharlal Nehru was Pandit Atal Bihari Vajpayee, in whose oratory Pandit Nehru saw a kind of his successor. But then there was an ideological opponent in Chaudhry Charan Singh who openly challenged his economic policy, and rightfully so. And that is what makes the political contest so very interesting in the Democratic Republic of Bharat. So Peter Brass emphasizes Singh's strong support among Jats and backward caste in Uttar Pradesh. His social justice initiatives like intercaste marriages, incentives, and his dedication to public service without personal enrichment. Drawing from Singh's personal files and interviews, Peter Brass presents him as a forward thinking politician whose policies influenced modern governance. And over the years, many contemporary and modern politicians have perceptions on Chaudhry Charan Singh. And in February 2024, very late, but yes, when announcing the Bharat Ratna for Chaudhry Sahab, Prime Minister Narendra Modi praised his contributions. He stated that it is the good fortune of our government that former Prime Minister Chaudhry Charan Singh is being honored with Bharat Ratna. This honor is dedicated to his incomparable contributions to the country. And PM Modi further elaborated that he had dedicated his entire life to the rights and welfare of farmers. He also stood firm against the emergency. His dedication to our farmers and his commitment to democracy during the emergency is inspiring to the entire nation. And the then president of India, R. Venkataraman, described Singh Chaudhry Sahab as a champion for the cause of India's peasantry in a posthumous tribute in 1987. A personal life, a bit on his personal life. His political legacy is continued by his grandson in Chaudhry Jayant Singh, who is current MOS, Ministry of Education in the Modi government. So in 1925, just a century back, Chaudhry Sahab married Gayatri Devi ji, who later became political leader, serving as a member of the Uttar Pradesh Legislative Assembly from Iglas and Gokul, and as a Lok Sabha MP from Kairana. The couple had six children, five daughters, Satyavati ji, Vedvati ji, Gyanvati ji, Sharda ji, Saroj ji, and one son, Ajit Singh ji. Ajit Singh ji, a former IBM employee with degrees from IIT Kharagpur and the Illinois Institute of Technology. In the IT parlance, we say that double IIT he went to, one in India and one in US. He entered in politics in 1986, just a year before the demise of Chaudhry Sahab, and later founding the Rashtriya Lokdal. He served as a union minister and represent Bagpat in the Lok Sabha for 7 terms. And it would be noteworthy to know that when the Modi government was all out to crush the farmers' agitation on the Uttar Pradesh Ghaziabad border, it was one phone call from Chaudhry Ajit Singh that gave that morcha a fresh lease of life. And Mr. Modi was compelled to take back the three draconian farm laws, as is known to be like the Rowlatt Act laws of the British government. So, Chaudhry Ajit Singh, he had subsided back But then his one phone call, that is the kind of a political clout of Chaudhry Charan Singh, what he carried on even after Chaudhry Sahab's demise. So this is the power of peasants. Bharat ko kehte hain krishi pradhan desh. So when Prime Minister Modi came, he talked about one third agrarian, one third manufacturing, and one third service sector. But somewhere the global economic hitmen, which we all know, they try to play the great games globally, trying to evoke wars and declare one-sided truces. But this is the kind of power what Chaudhry Saab's political legacy continues to have in the Indian politics. And Chaudhry Ajit Singh ji married Radhika Singh ji in 1967, and they had one son and two daughters. And Chaudhry Ajit Singh died of COVID on 6th of May 2021. So the same month of his father's demise. So Chaudhry Saab's grandson, Jain Chaudhary, he was born in 1978 in America, and he was elected to the 15th Lok Sabha from Mathura, the land of Krishna, in 2009. But he lost in 2014 to the film actress Hema Malini, who was paratrooped from the tinsel town of Mumbai. And Hema Malini ji is enjoying the third term uh, parliamentarianship from the land of Krishna. And Chaudhry Jain Singh ji contested Bagpat in 2014, but very closely lost to Satyapal Singh ji, a former commissioner of police from Mumbai, to BJP. And Chaudhry Jain Singh, he became the RLD president after his father's death. But he was elected to the Rajya Sabha from Uttar Pradesh when his party's alliance was with Akhilesh Yadav's Samajwadi Party in 2022. Uh, Chaudhry Jain Singh is married to Charu Singh, with whom he has two daughters. So this is Chaudhry Sahab's political legacy, personal life, and apart his death, what we are commemorating his Punyatithi. Chaudhry Sahab initially suffered a stroke on 29 November 1985. He could not recover from that condition despite being treated at the John Hopkins Hospital in the US in March 1986. And on 28th May 1987, Dr. Jaipal Singh, along with other senior doctors from Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital, New Delhi, arrived at his residence around 11:35 p.m. after his respiration was found unsteady. And Chaudhry Saab's state funeral procession at Delhi was then given oxygen support, but efforts to revive him failed, and was he was declared dead at 2:35 a.m. on 29th May 1987 due to cardiac arrest at the age of 85. So, following his death, the government of India announced a 4-day mourning and a state funeral. And on 31st May 1987, Chaudhry Sahab was given a state funeral in Delhi. He was cremated at the Kisan Ghat. Many leaders arrived at Chaudhry Sahab residence on Tughlaq Road to pay their last respects, uh, such as the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, the former Minister Natwar Singh, former President Neelam Sanjeeva Reddy, Bansi Lal, Devi Lal, Ram Nivas Mirdha, N.D. Tiwari. The only purpose of reading out these names is that this is the kind of a political consciousness. This is the whole group of leaders, public leaders, with whatever criticism we have in the public life, but they had a key role to play in India's ascendance till now, till 2025. And as we said that he was an author par excellence, his plethora of books we would really like to pay a tribute, because a leader is known by his ideology, his thoughts, his books, what he has left for posterity. And somewhere Chaudhry Sahab remains very, very relevant for an agrarian Bharat, whereby a vast majority is still struggling to make two ends meet. And it is perhaps a national shame that more than half of our population has to be dependent on government free rations for two square meals a day. So abolition of zamindari, perhaps the new zamindari is the one percenter syndrome, which has taken away the whole productive capacity from the people on the grassroots to a very limited set of people at the top of the economic pyramid. And we will just come that how we are linking the agrarian vision of Chaudhry Saab to the most modern advancement in the current era of AI. So wither cooperative farming. So Modi Sarkar created a Ministry of Cooperation, but Chaudhary Saab was dead against this ideological aspect that cooperative farming and corporatized farming was the subject matter of the three dark farm laws by deceit. That's a different matter. Rethink India produced a long commentary reading the three acts in parallel, because त्रिपुरासुर की भांति जब तक वो तीनों एक्ट्स एक लाइन में पढ़कर नहीं समझे जाएंगे, it was a master deception in legislative, I would say, legislative fooling of the republic. But then this is how the powers of the world, it was not so important. There are larger geostrategic power plays which affect a nation state, and people are now realizing after the post Sindoor operation, after the post Pahalgam and the unceremonious way in which President of United States intervened and asked for a truce. So the whole Indian think tanks in the government outside, they are now reconsidering our supports, our non-alignment, whole sort of our conventional policies. So agrarian revolution in Uttar Pradesh, joint farming, X-rayed India's poverty and its solution, India's economic policy, the Gandhian blueprint, uh, economic, Gandhiji talked about the village domestic product, like the GDP at the national level. But if we start mapping the VDP, the 6 lakh odd villages or the 2.5 lakh, 2.5 lakh panchayats, if, because technology has come, the data is now out here with us. Niti Aayog runs its aspirational districts program to a great extent. So perhaps this is a time to revisit these savants. What was not possible technically, the kind of collection of data, the GDP data, the GST data, which is available in real time. You can find even on shops of the remote test part of the country having a very lengthy 14, 16 digit GST number. I think a lot of economic activity can be measured in real time by that and processed, analyzed. The power of AI can be deployed for the true democratization of Bharatiya Samriddhi. Because in the Rethink India parlance, we talk GDP as the gross domestic prosperity, and a level beyond the gross dharmic prosperity, which is not just limited to some limited set of people, but it is fairly decentralized down to the districts, down to the villages out there, and decentralized technology is all out there. Land reforms in UP and the Kulaks, peasant proprietorship or land to the workers, that was the core, and prevention of division of holdings below a certain minimum. Legacy, Chaudhary Saab, often hailed as champion of farmers, left behind a rich legacy that continues to inspire and shape the agricultural landscape of India. His contributions to the welfare of the farmers and the rural community were profound and multifaceted. Chaudhary Saab's journey as a stalwart for farmers' rights began with his instrumental role in piloting pro-farmer legislation such as the Uttar Pradesh Zamindari Abolition and Land Reforms Act of 1950, which aimed to redistribute land from zamindars to the tillers, and the Consolidation of Holdings Act of 1953, which sought to prevent the fragmentation of agricultural land. Chaudhary Saab was the chief architect of land reforms in Uttar Pradesh, and still today, if someone has to become the Prime Minister of India, the road to that goes from Uttar Pradesh only, and that's what it is, the heartland of Bharat, where he played a pivotal role in the formulation of finalization of the Debt Redemption Bill 1939. This legislation brought significant relief to rural debtors, easing the burden of debt that had long plagued the agricultural community. We all get to listen to it from the films of the bygone era, Mother India, Manoj Kumar films, so and so forth, that how zamindars were so atrocious and they were under the sway of the British Empire. The kind of play, zamindars were not that bad, but then the British mischief was played by Rai Bahadurs, by intermediaries of our very own. And that's a matter of a different session. We will be bringing it across. As Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Chaudhary Saab was instrumental in enacting the Land Holdings Act, of 1960. A very short tenure, but then with the eagle eyed focus, he made it happen. And this act aimed at lowering the ceiling on land holdings to make it uniform throughout the state, thereby promoting fairer land distribution and addressing the disparities in land ownership. Chaudhry Saab's birthday, which is 23rd December, it was declared as Kisan Divas or National Farmers Day in the year 2001 in the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government. And this day is celebrated across India to honor his memory and his unwavering dedication to the agrarian community. To commemorate his second death anniversary, the Government of India issued a postage stamp on 29th May 1990. And the stamp symbolizes the nation's respect for his contributions as the fifth Prime Minister of India and a champion of farmers' rights. His commitment to the agricultural sector was further immortalized with the establishment of Kisan Ghat in 1987, as this memorial in Delhi serves as a serene place where people pay their respects to the man who was often referred to as the champion of farmers. And several monuments and institutions have been named after Chaudhry Sahab to honor his legacy, which includes the Chaudhry Charan Singh University in Meerut and the Chaudhry Charan Singh International Airport, which was renamed in his honor. And very interestingly, in the year 2023, on his birthday, a 51-foot statue of Chaudhry Sahab was unveiled by Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath in a town called Bilari near Moradabad, uh, coinciding Chaudhry Sahab's birthday. And on 30th March, just last year, 2024, Chaudhary Saab was posthumously honored with the Bharat Ratna, India's highest civilian award by President Draupadi Murmu, for his exceptional service and contributions to the agricultural sector, particularly in Uttar Pradesh. Chaudhary Sahab's multifaceted personality encompassed roles of a patriot, administrator, statesman, and a man of integrity and humanist values the most. Just coming what we promised you, that to carry forward and to contemporize the grand legacy of Chaudhary Sahab, Rethink India has curated the Bharat Ratna being Charan Singh Sanstuti 2025, furthering agrarian intelligence in the age of AI. So, very many AI deployments have come which are supporting the cause of the farmers, from weather to removing stray animals to to a cause of productivity. Most importantly, the fundamental issue of fair pricing to a sector which remains at the receiving end of I would say weather's climate change. And what is most pertinent is that the balance of the sectors, what Prime Minister Modi, I would say, when he was candidate to the prime ministerial post, equitable distribution of economic dependence between agrarian economy, the manufacturing, and obviously the services sector. So, how AI can revolutionize agriculture is one part of the story, but how the balance in the entire compact of national and global economies, and how this can come, perhaps a lot of analysis of the farm prices, what agroeconomists like Devinder Sharma sir says, that the corporate pricing what farmers get is just 8% of the MRP. So whatever agro produce we get, the processed ones, only 8% of the end MRP is received by the first layer of farmers. And the technological bandwagon, we are all in a technological age, how this entire continuum from the farms to the fridges, the fair share of the farmers can be ensured by a mix of technological interventions, sovereign regulations, and obviously the market forces. So this will be a kind of a felicitation. Our editorial teams are working to research upon advocates, activists, in fact, analysts for that matter, who are really contributing to the cause of agrarian intelligence out there. And this felicitation would be done on 28th of July, yet another important day in the life of Chaudhry Sahab, where he took the oath of the fifth Prime Minister of India. And it was his fetish to assume that highest power, to give the power, the representation to the toiling peasants at large. And that is what a leader is, just a symbol of the large unrepresented souls whose voice he tries to bring forth to the platforms, to the positions of power he occupy. With this, we really pay our humble obeisances to the life and legend of Chaudhry Sahib, which still continues to be relevant in contemporary times. And I would request Dr. Surbhi to present, to give her closing remarks, and then this commemoration we will conclude for the day.
So I take this opportunity and at this very pious and austere moment when the country remembers the champion of farmers, Chaudhry Charan Singh ji, the fifth Prime Minister of the nation of India, that is Bharat. And I join Rethink India team in felicitating truly Chaudhry Sahab as a phenomenal Prime Minister in whose reign the farmer promotion, the farm laws, the minimum support price, he is the foundation behind it all. And with these words, I
Thank
would
you.
take
Thank-
your leave and Vande
So we
Mataram.
also invite nominations for these Being Charan Singh Sanskruti 2025, with whatever philosophical background we have been able to give. You can really approach us. We will be sending the residual emailers and communications regarding that. So with this, we take your leave.